Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, I truly believe that there is a difference between being rich and being wealthy, and I believe that a rich person and a wealthy person are two completely different people. And in this video, I want to talk about those differences because when you can see the difference between a rich person and a wealthy person, you understand that your financial fate doesn't rest solely on having a high income. And you can become wealthy simply by adjusting your mindset. And so in this video, I want to talk about 7 of the key differences between the rich and the wealthy. And the first difference is rich people buy liabilities, wealthy people buy assets. So this is probably the biggest difference. Rich people buy something called liabilities, which is something you owe or something that causes you trouble. And these are things like credit card debt, car payments, and unnecessarily high mortgages. And having liabilities isn't a terrible thing, but when you buy a liability like a new car for $30,000, you now have a regular payment to keep up with, an item that loses its value over time, and you have to spend more money on upkeep. Liabilities make it harder for you to grow your wealth, whereas wealthy people buy something called assets, which is something that generates cash flow, reduces expenses, or provides future economic benefit. In common assets are things like stocks, retirement accounts, and savings accounts. Assets help you grow your wealth. For example, if instead of buying that $30,000 car, you bought $30,000 in index funds, that money would generate on average a 10% return each year. And that asset would help you grow your wealth. So 20 years from now, if you bought that liability, that car, it would be worth practically nothing and probably even cost you money. Whereas the asset, the index fund, would grow to over $201,000. And so that's the first big difference. Rich people buy liabilities, wealthy people buy assets. Now the second difference is rich people have a high income, wealthy people have a high net worth. Now, just because you make a lot of money doesn't mean you have a lot of money, but we often think that it does. We think that income and net worth go hand in hand. But that's not true. Income doesn't necessarily have a lot to do with wealth. For example, if I put 2 people side by side and one person made $10,000 a month and the other person made $4,000 a month, who do you think has the higher net worth? Well, I think that most people would say this person does because they have a higher income. However, that might not be true because, for example, if the high income earner lives an expensive lifestyle whose expenses are $9,000 a month, 90% of their income goes to liabilities and only 10% goes to assets. Whereas if the lower income earner lives a more modest life with expenses of $2,000 a month, then 50% of their income goes to liabilities and 50% goes to assets. And if these 2 people chose to live their financial lives this way for the next 10 years and invest their assets in a simple index fund, the high income earner would have a net worth of about $191,000, and the low income earner would have a net worth of about $382,000. You don't need a high income to build wealth, you just need low expenses, which brings me to my third difference. Rich people live above their means, wealthy people live below their means. As I just said, we often think that income and net worth go hand in hand, but that is not true. It doesn't matter how much money you make. If you don't have financial sense, you can still go broke. I mean, it is estimated that over half of 6-figure earners are living paycheck to paycheck, and 60% of millennial 6-figure earners are living paycheck to paycheck. And so another big difference between rich people and wealthy people is that rich people live above their means and have high expenses, whereas wealthy people live below their means, having low expenses. It doesn't matter how much money you're making. If you're spending everything, you're still going to go broke. I mean, there's a quote by Dave Ramsey that goes, "You can't earn your way out of a spending problem." Contrary to what the media portrays, you don't become wealthy by spending all your money and having a bunch of liabilities, but you become wealthy by having low living expenses and spending your money on assets. But sometimes the simplest things are the hardest to understand. Now, the fourth difference is rich people make it known, wealthy people hide it. The older I get, and I am 30, the less I care about what other people think about me. And the more I broadcast myself to the world, the less I care about what other people think about me because I gotta stay mentally sane. I mean, I will dress in a rolled up t-shirt, short shorts, and sunglasses and be viewed by thousands of strangers around the world just because I think it's funny. And I will call myself Steve McGuire. What are you talking about, L. Augustine? I'm Steve McGuire. Anyways, I think that when you stay true to yourself and don't care about what other people think of you, people will respect you more because you're not trying to be someone you're not. And generally, rich people like to broadcast to others that they have money, buying nice cars, luxury housing, and nice clothes. Rich people like to make it known to others that they have money, which again makes them spend more money on liabilities and less on assets. Whereas wealthy people don't care what other people think of them, and they choose to live a more modest lifestyle, driving a modest car, living in a modest house, and wearing blue jeans and a t-shirt, using less money on liabilities and more on assets. Rich people want everyone to know that they have money, but wealthy people do not care and just hide it. Now, the fifth difference is rich people expect the best, wealthy people expect the worst. One of my favorite books on money is this book, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. And it's an interesting book on money because instead of talking about the mathematical side of money, he talks about the emotional side of money. Because the problem that most people have with money is that their decisions are too emotional. And an interesting topic that he talks about in the book is the difference between getting wealthy and staying wealthy. Because these two things involve two different skill sets. Getting wealthy requires taking risks, being optimistic, and putting yourself out there, whereas staying wealthy requires humility, fear that it can be taken away fast, frugality, and acceptance that luck played a role. And another big difference between rich people and wealthy people is that rich people often think that their high income will last forever and don't prepare for bad times. They expect the best. Whereas wealthy people don't expect good times to last forever and prepare for bad times. They expect the worst. Now, I wouldn't say that wealthy people are doomsday preppers, but I would call them paranoid optimists, whereas I would call rich people blind optimists. Wealthy people hope for the best, but expect the worst. And so when something bad does happen, like they lose their job, they're prepared for it. And that event doesn't affect them as much. Whereas a blind optimist that doesn't prepare would be more affected when something bad happens. Now, the sixth difference is rich people count dollars, wealthy people count pennies. One thing that I've noticed as I've gotten older is that what you think a lot of money is changes over time. For example, when I was 10 and couldn't work, I thought having $100 was a lot of money. Then when I was 18 and could work, I thought having $1,000 was a lot of money. Now I'm 30 and think having $10,000 is a lot of money. As you get older and you start to make more money, your idea of what a lot of money is changes. However, despite how much you make, it's important to never lose sight of the value of $1. Because the second you lose sight of the value of $1 is the second you become broke. And another big difference between rich people and wealthy people is that rich people often make so much money that they don't value $1 anymore and waste their money on small expenses, adding up to a much larger expense. Whereas wealthy people never lose sight of the value of $1, which keeps their expenses from getting out of hand and allows them to grow their wealth quicker. Rich people focus on the dollars, wealthy people focus on the pennies. There's a quote that goes, "If you take care of the pennies, the dollars will take care of you." And the final difference between rich people and wealthy people is that rich people value stuff, wealthy people value time. Money can really buy you two things, stuff and time. And most people in this world can't have both. It's either one or the other. And rich people often choose to spend their money on stuff and have to work harder to make more money, having more stuff and less time. Whereas wealthy people spend less money on stuff and save more so they have more time to do the things they enjoy, having less stuff but more time. How you spend your money and what you do with your money says a lot about your value system, and most people value their stuff over their time. Which is crazy because no material possession in this world is worth more than your time, and wealthy people can see that and rich people can't always see that. And those are the 7 differences between rich people and wealthy people. Now before I go, I just want to say that this is my new apartment. I think this will be my new background. I'm focusing right now, and I would love to hear your input on decorating that wall over there. I was thinking about putting some shelves up and putting some plants on it to make it have a little pop. So let me know, how would you decorate this wall in the comment section? And with that, muchas gracias. Que tengan un buen día. Nos vemos, chicos.